I grew up in Windsor, and Windsor is the automotive capital of this country. I knew what it was like when workers lost their jobs during the ups and downs of the economy. Right now, what Trump has done is a full frontal attack on auto workers. There are hundreds and thousands of workers right now that are wondering if their line is going to shut down and if they're going to lose their job. These workers are wondering if they lose their jobs, how are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to keep their home? How are they going to keep food on the table for their families? This is a direct attack on our workers, and we've got to fight back like hell. We've got to fight back with retaliatory tariffs to get rid of these tariffs that are hurting not just jobs in Canada, but jobs in the States as well. And we also have to worry about these workers. The government's got to step up and make sure that none of these workers lose their homes, that these workers can pay their bills, that these workers can get EI, that it's there for them so they can keep food on the table. That's what I'm thinking about right now. We got to fight back. We got to protect these workers. This is a direct attack on so many workers. And we know that Trump is an arsonist. He's literally burning down his own country's jobs and economy and ours as well. And we got to stand up and fight back. Ce qui s'est passé, c'est vraiment une attaque directe à nos emplois. Les travailleurs dans le secteur automotive au Canada, au Windsor. Donc je sais l'impact d'une sorte d'un tarif comme ça. Comment ça va impacter les travailleurs? Comment ça va impacter toute la ville, toute l'économie? Donc on va à ce moment, pour un travailleur qui pense peut-être je vais perdre mon emploi. Donc, on doit prendre soin de ces travailleurs à ce moment et on doit se battre pour notre pays. On doit se battre pour ces travailleurs. On doit avoir des tarifs, des représailles et on doit faire tout ce qu'on peut pour éliminer ces tarifs contre nos travailleurs.
Did you miss the moment today in not meeting with workers who are being impacted by Trump's tariffs, and will you change your itinerary tomorrow?
Well, what's happened right now is heartbreaking. Like the idea that hundreds of thousands of workers right now are looking at what's just been announced and are wondering, will I lose my job? The prediction is, and some of the estimates are, these are literally hundreds of thousands of jobs that could be impacted in the automotive sector and the supporting sectors around it. There's a lot of jobs at stake right now. So first and foremost, we got to protect these workers and we've got to fight back like hell to protect these jobs.
Aujourd'hui, M. Singh, vous êtes allé faire une visite d'une pizzeria pendant qu'il y a des travailleurs qui s'inquiétaient pour leur avenir, en sachant qu'il y a peut-être une décision aujourd'hui. Qu'est-ce que vous leur dites aujourd'hui pour justifier que vous défendez vraiment les intérêts des travailleurs?
On ne sait jamais ce que Trump va dire, ce qu'il va proposer. À ce moment, ce qu'il a annoncé, à ce moment, c'est quelque chose qui frappe fort sur les travailleurs. On a demandé le gouvernement libéral, on a demandé que Mark Carney mette en place des protections pour les travailleurs. Parce qu'on savait que les menaces de Trump va dire les impacts directs aux travailleurs. On savait ça. Et Mark Carney aurait dû savoir ça aussi. Ça, c'est pourquoi j'ai dit qu'on doit avoir des protections en place avant d'aller à une élection. Et maintenant, voilà ce qui s'est passé. So I got to say this in English as well. This is why I had called on Mark Carney to put in place protections for workers before going to an election. This is not a game. This is serious. Workers right now are wondering how they're going to make ends meet because right now EI does not cover enough to pay the bills. It doesn't cover enough workers, but the amount that you get in income replacement is about 55% of your salary. For a lot of workers, that's not enough to cover the bills. It's not enough to cover the mortgage and to buy groceries and to pay your bills. That's why I said that Mark Carney should have put in place protections for workers before going to an election, knowing these threats were there, knowing that there was threats to directly impact workers and workers could lose their jobs. I said, let's put in place supports first and then go to an election.
Mark Carney did put forward today a $2 billion package, strategic response for the response to what's going on. What do you think of what he put forward?
Too late. Like this should have been done in the first week he was prime minister. In the first week that Mark Carney was prime minister, he found the time to go to Europe, do a trip and meet with the king. He found time to do a tax cut for millionaires, but he did not acknowledge the seriousness of the threat of Donald Trump and how workers could lose their jobs. What's going to happen if, as some economists predict, hundreds of thousands of workers lose their jobs.
With all
And
due
if that happens
all-
now, there is simply no protections in place for them. And that's why I said repeatedly that Mark Carney should have put in place those supports before going to an election.
With all due respect, you found time today to go to a pizza shop and meet with seniors. Why did you not spend that time unveiling what you would do to help these workers?
I hope we're not making a comparison with the Prime Minister of this country, who for a week when he was Prime Minister, toured Europe, met with the King, and did a tax cut for millionaires, when he ought to have used that time to put in place a real plan for workers that are going to lose their jobs. We are
Mr.
right
Singh,
now
what is your
in the
plan?
middle of an election. And what we need to have done is have a plan for EI to cover workers when it comes to their bills, when it comes to paying for their mortgage and their groceries. EI needs to have been reformed. For years, we've called on for these reforms to happen. We called on these reforms to happen during the pandemic. It fell on deaf ears. The Liberals didn't do it. We called on these reforms to happen before the election, and the Liberals again said no. It turns out, it is very clear to me that for the Liberals, workers are an afterthought. We had called for these changes multiple times. They said no. Now workers are left out high and dry.
So what
Qu'est-ce que
now?
vous
What
changez dans votre campagne à la lumière de ce qu'on apprend aujourd'hui? Est-ce que des choses que vous faites différemment demain pour montrer que vous avez les compétences d'être le premier ministre dans le contexte actuel?
À ce moment, ce qu'on doit faire, c'est de faire tout ce qu'on peut pour protéger ces travailleurs. Comme on a dit, on a besoin des changements de l'assurance-emploi tout de suite,
Mais demain,
un changement d'urgence pour protéger ces travailleurs. Deuxièmement, c'est clair qu'on doit répondre, on doit riposter pour défendre notre pays et défendre ses emplois.
Mais
what's
vous-
Yeah.
what needs to be done?
Well, immediately what needs to happen are emergency measures to make sure that workers that lose their jobs are going to get the supports that they need. The government's got to put everything on the table and look at supports right now. There is a serious threat that for hundreds of thousands of workers, they could lose their job. They need to know that the government's got their back. Thanks so much. Merci. Thank you.